Hey there, Samitian here, and I have been working on a Marvel Legendary integration for Archipelago for the past couple of weeks now, um, and it has just recently gotten to the point where I feel comfortable advertising it to people. So this is mainly going to be a video if you are familiar with Marvel Legendary and not quite familiar with what Archipelago is, but just in case you aren't familiar with Marvel Legendary either, Marvel Legendary, it's a deck building card game in the Marvel Universe where you build a team of heroes, you fight some evildoers, stop their schemes. It's got characters from the comics, it's got characters from TV shows, from the MCU, and it has a lot of expansions, like a lot of them. I think there's like 35 now or something like that. Anyways, it's a lot. So I've been obsessed with this game for a couple of years. I think it's a really good game and big fan. 10 out of 10 would recommend. So now that you know what Marvel Legendary is, what is Archipelago? Well, Archipelago, as it says here on the website, is a multi-world, multi-game randomizer. What does that mean? So it takes a bunch of randomizers for a bunch of different games and basically combines them into one big randomizer. So, for example, you're playing Ocarina of Time and you go open up a chest, but instead of that chest having your Kokiri sword, it has a bounce bracelet for your friend playing Sonic Adventure 2. And then while walking over to whatever your next chest is that you need to open, your other friend who's playing Super Metroid has just found your hookshot and it gives you a hookshot. It does this by connecting to a server that Archipelago itself hosts. And when you open a thing, it sends out the information about what item is supposed to be there to the server, and then the server then sends the item to the game that's supposed to get it. So it's a very fun way to take randomizers, which are normally a pretty standalone solo experience, unless you're like racing it, and turn it into something multiplayer, something fun, something cooperative to do with your friends over time. And it's a lot of fun if you're not familiar with it. So, how does that work for a card game like Marvel Legendary? Well, this is what is known as a manual Archipelago installation. What a manual is instead of you sending out information from a mod or something, like in Ocarina of Time, there's a mod or some kind of connector script that connects to the server, and when you open a chest, it will send out the information automatically. Instead, you need to keep track of what you have available and what you can do and what you do on your own, manually, hence the name manual. So in this case, all of the items you have are over here on the left, and all of the things that you can do are over here on the right. So at the start of the game, you will have 5 random heroes unlocked, shown over here in Heroes. In this case, I have Maximus, Agent X-13, Red Guardian, Punisher, and Quasar. And you will start with one random base set. So either the core set, the villain set, the Marvel Studios Phase 1 set, or the Marvel Studios What If set. And if you don't have access to every Marvel Legendary expansion, don't worry about it. You can turn things that you don't have off, but you do need to own at least one base set to play. So we start with these 5 heroes, and the base set that we started with is the core set. So over here on the right, we have access to all of the things in the core set. Now, the rules of this are whenever you defeat a mastermind or a mastermind tactic, you will then click, say you decide to fight Doctor Doom and you beat his first tactic. You would then click tactic number 1 here, and doing that will be what sends the information to the server. So the setup I have going right here is just a single player game of just this one Marvel Legendary game. And if you want to see what you got sent or sent out, you can go over here to the All or the Archipelago tab. I don't exactly know what the difference between these two is, but they are effectively the same in this context. So you'll see that player 1, that's me, found their Captain America Phase 1, which is the hero from the Marvel Legendaries Phase 1 set, Captain America. So now we have a 6th hero that we can play as. and you fight Dr. Doom a couple more times, unlock a few more things, and some of the times you can get a trap, which would be what this is. So one villain escapes. In this case, you would pick a villain and it'll escape. You can turn off traps if you don't want to have to deal with that, because sometimes you can not notice that you get sent a trap. These are mainly a good idea if you're playing with like other people and you're playing together at the same time, so that you can have like some fun interactions. Your friend opens a chest and sends you, oh no, a villain escaped. Whoops. And then you have false lead. This is basically your junk item in this AP world. There's more locations than there are items that you can be sent, so you need some junk. And I felt like a false lead felt like a good thematic junk item to have, quote unquote. So this does literally nothing. So let's keep playing for a while. You defeat Dr. Doom's tactic number 4, and you defeat Dr. Doom. Huzzah! You get the Domino Hero, and you get the Midnight Sun set. This is how you progress through your sets. You unlock new sets by finding them by defeating masterminds or defeating mastermind tactics. Or if you're playing with other people, the other people could find your sets for you and send you other sets to play. So now we have access to 7 heroes, and we also have access to a second set, the Midnight Sunset. So now you can fight these guys. The sets you get unlock everything from those sets, every piece of content from those sets other than heroes. Heroes you unlock separately. Um, how strict you want to be with that is up to you. For example, I'm sure if you have a lot of physical sets, you probably have a big stack of bystander cards from multiple different sets that you use on a regular basis, and you won't want to have to separate them all out to make sure that you're only using bystanders from whatever sets you have unlocked. That's fine. Just make sure that you're playing the same way every time, and everything will be great. It is a manual after all, so if you don't like anything that I'm saying, you can just ignore them. Like if you say you forgot to turn traps off and you don't want to deal with them, just don't deal with them. It's up to you. You're the player. So we play a little bit longer. We fight Lilith, Master of Demons, and we get some more stuff. We get another trap, we get another hero, get some more false leads. Some of these are helpful versions of traps, like KO a card. There's also like draw a card or place a bystander on top of the villain deck, stuff like that, just to make your life a little bit easier. But that didn't give us any new sets to play, so let's fight Zarathos. So now you've fought Zarathos, and we got 2 more sets. We got the Deadpool set and the Fantastic Four set, and we got a Trap to KO a non-gray card. It's very bad, but you just won, so it doesn't actually do anything. So you keep playing for a while. How do you win? What's the goal? The goal is to collect the 6 Infinity Stones, which you will find randomly fighting things, or other people can send them to you if you're playing with other people or other games. And once you have all 6 Infinity Stones, you can click this victory button, goal assemble the Infinity Stones. And when you click that, you win. You complete your goal and you've completed all your games. Congratulations. Now, this doesn't actually have anything preventing you from clicking a location that you don't have available, as I just showed. Like I don't have this available to me, but I clicked on it. You're going to have to show self-restraint. You're going to have to know that you can't do a thing and not click the thing if you can't do the thing. And I also recommend being careful when clicking a lot. Like say you fight Galactus a few times, so you're here and I'm like, okay, I fought Galactus, I beat all of his attacks, I'm gonna do this. Oops, I clicked Mole Man. Whoops, I guess Mole Man's defeated now. So just be careful when you're like double clicking or clicking fast like that. So now that I've gone through how you play, let's talk about how to set this up, assuming you have no idea what Archipelago is before today, and you're like, wow, that's cool. How do I set all this up? Well, you're going to need to do a few things. First thing you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to the Archipelago GitHub, go to releases, it'll load, and scroll down to this part of the most recent version of Archipelago, which is currently 0.5.1. Scroll down here, download the hotfix version for whatever operating system you use. If you use Linux, you want one of these, I guess. I don't use Linux, I use Windows. So in my case, I would want 0.5.1 hotfix1.exe. This is the normal Windows 1. If you have Windows 7, you're going to want this one, but I hope you don't have Windows 7 anymore. So you download this, you run the exe file, you install Archipelago onto your computer, and then you'll have a folder something like this, which is your Archipelago folder. Wow. After that, you need to download the most recent manual AP world. Again, from releases, use the most recent stable version, download the AP world file, and place it in the custom worlds folder here in your Archipelago installation. Easy enough. Then you go to my thing, which I've made. You go to releases, you download the latest AP world, and you download the latest YAML file. Again, you put the AP world into the custom worlds installation, and then you edit the YAML file with all of the options you want and place it into your players folder. I'll get around to how to do that in a second because there's an optional step here, which is the tracker. You take the tracker AP world and you put it into your custom worlds folder along with everything else. This part's technically optional, but if you don't have that, it won't show these green lights on what you have available to do, and it'll just be slightly more annoying to keep track of what masterminds you can and can't deal with, in my opinion. So I highly recommend it as just an extra download. So you've downloaded all the things. Now what? Well, now you need to edit this YAML file. So this might feel complicated, but it's not as bad as it seems. So you can open this in any text editor you want. I'm using just Notepad. So everything with a number symbol in front of it is a comment. So nothing after these will do anything to change anything. But stuff without a number in front of it is an option. So here's the name. We're going to put in a player name. We're going to say that we're playing as, what's a nerdy Marvel character who would play like a card game? Amadeus Cho. He would probably play Marvel Legendary. So yeah, you put in your player name here. Then here's the game name. Don't change this one. This is the name of the manual. All the manuals have the same formula of manual in front, game name in the middle, person who created the manual in the back. So don't change anything here, and don't change this. And then you get into the options itself. This one is progression balancing. You can safely ignore this if you're playing solo, and even if you're not playing solo, just leave it. Leave it alone if you don't know what you're doing with it. It doesn't really matter that much, in my opinion. Accessibility, same deal. Full means you can reach everything. Minimal means you can reach everything that is required for your goal, so you might end up not finding certain sets if you put it on minimal. Now, these settings are all what is known as weighted settings. So, for example, you add all the numbers together, and then your chances of it being that setting are the number you have placed over the total number. So in this case, accessibility is full. Full is set to 50. The total between all the numbers is 50, so you have a 50 out of 50 chance of it being full. Say I set minimum to 10. Then the total number is 60, so you have a 50 out of 60 chance of it being full and a 10 out of 60 chance of it being minimal. So you can weight the settings in any way that you feel like. Um, Normally I would just like it to be full, but you can have it minimal if you would like that. Or you could have it be random. It's up to you. Next up is filler traps. So this determines what percentage of your filler items are replaced with traps. So if you don't want traps, you would replace the left number with 0. That means 0% of your traps will be, or 0% of your filler items will be traps. Filler items are those false leads that I mentioned earlier. Say you want what I had, 35% traps, you would put 35 here. Say you want a random number of traps, you could just put it on random, or you could say I want a 50% chance of it being 35% and a 50% chance of it being 55%. I could do this. Then here are all of the sets, and you can enable them or disable them as you see fit. You need to have at least one base set to play. I can't stress that enough. You need at least one. So you need at least one of the core set, villain set, Marvel Studios Phase 1, or Marvel Studios What If. You need one of those four at least. You can have multiple of them. So let's say you're setting up your options. You're gonna be playing this game. You're gonna be playing it with a few friends. You don't want all the sets because it'll take 100 hours. So you disable some. You disable Dark City. You keep core because you like core. So to disable a thing, you just make the whole number false and the true set to 0. You could also have these random if you want. So a 50-50 chance, let's say a 50-50 chance to play Fantastic Four and a 50-50 chance to play Paint the Town Red. Disable villains because you don't like villains. Disable Guardians of the Galaxy because you don't own it. Disable some of these because you don't own them. And you disable Deadpool because he's against the law. And you disable this one. So now all of those things that you have set to false will no longer show up in the game, period. You won't get any of the heroes from them. You won't get any of the masterminds from them. You won't have to see them at all. It's as if they just don't exist, which is good because most people don't own all the sets in this game, shockingly enough. So you've done all of your settings. Now you save your file, and let's say you want to play with some other people playing other games. You need to have this YAML file in your players folder, and all of the other people you're playing with will also need their YAML files in this players folder, assuming you're the one generating. I'm going to assume that you're the one generating because you might want to generate a solo game. So you take some other YAMLs. Let's say you're playing with someone who's playing Final Fantasy VI. So you take their YAML and you put it in here. You're also playing with someone who's playing Rabby Ribby. Take that and you put it in there. All right, these are what you're playing. You're playing Marvel Legendary. Your friend's playing Final Fantasy VI, and your other friend's playing Rabby Ribby. So what do you do now? You go out here to your Archipelago installation and you double-click the archipelago generate.exe file. A command line will show up. It'll do its thing for a little bit, and it'll close itself if everything is fine. If everything's not fine, say there's an error in your YAML, it'll tell you that your YAML's messed up and you need to fix it. Figure out what formatting issue you've had and fix it. There is a guide to YAML formatting that is slightly better than me explaining it probably. I will link that in the description below along with the links to everything that you need to download. But once your generation is done, it will go to the output file here. You'll have one of these zip files here. This is the one that I just did because it's from today. And what you do there is you go to the Archipelago website, click on Start Playing, host a pre-generated game, and upload file. You upload this and click Create a new room. And here you go. You've got a list of all the players, all the games that they're playing. You've got the server information over here. And if you keep track of this website, keep track of the room that you have used in case the game takes more than one day and you need to come back to it later. If you do lose it, you can go to the user content page here and it'll have the seed and the room that you have just used. So that would be this one. In this case, the most recent is at the top. So you've done all this. Well, now how do you play? So I'm going to close out of this manual client from the game that I was playing before. And in your Archipelago installation, you go to archipelago launcher.exe and click on the manual client here. And we're back to the manual client that we were at before. So at the top here is the server information and the manual game ID. The server information is what you got here. Just copy and paste this paste this into here. The manual game ID is the ID of the game for the manual, which is just this. So manual underscore Marvel Legendary underscore Samitian. So you put the server ID in, you put the manual ID in, and you click the connect button up here in the right, and it'll say enter slot name. So the slot name is Amadeus Cho, and it'll take a second, and it will end up saying Amadeus Cho playing Marvel Legendary Samitian has joined, and now you can play the game with Amadeus Cho. Again, you start with a random base set. In this case, we start with the core set, and you start with 5 random heroes. In this case, we start with Stepford Cuckoos, Janet Van Dyne, Nullbreaker of Worlds, Amadeus Cho. That's completely random and very funny, and Luke Cage Noir. So again, you play a little bit. You fight Doctor Doom a few times, and this time, oh, since you're playing with other people, sometimes you'll be sending things to the other players. So you just sent sliding powder to your friend playing Rabby Ribby, and you sent nothing to your friend playing Rabby Ribby too, which is very funny. And a villain escapes, but you can turn off traps if you don't want them. So let's keep playing for a bit, and eventually we'll probably run out of stuff to do because it's likely that we won't find all of our sets because our friends might have our sets instead. So we're going to fight all the masterminds we have available. You can see we're unlocking more heroes over time. For specifically Ego, I have changed the tactics to 5 since you have to fight him at least 5 times to beat him. That's why he has 5 instead of 4. And I've also changed the Sinister 6 2099 to have 6 tactics because they have 6 tactics. So you're fighting things for a while. You unlock new heroes, you unlock new sets, you send some stuff up to your friends. It's very nice. And eventually you run out of stuff to do. After I defeated Jonah, well, suddenly I don't have anything to do anymore. I don't have any more sets. I have a few more heroes, but I don't have any more sets to play. So I would then have to wait for my friends playing Rabby Ribby and Final Fantasy VI to find me some more sets to play. Generally speaking, this game, specifically this Marvel Legendary game, will take an extremely long time, especially if you play with a lot of expansions. So keep that in mind if you're going to be playing multiplayer with other people. Make sure everyone is aware of the length of your game and plans accordingly with their games, because it can be very frustrating if you're playing a multi-world with people who have completely different lengths of games. Someone's got like a super short game and someone's got a super long game. Well, the person with the super short game has to sit around waiting a lot for people to find their stuff. So just keep that in mind if you're playing multiplayer. This game is more suited for what is known as an async game, where you're playing with your friends, but you're not all playing at the same time. You're just playing when you have stuff available to do. So just keep that in mind. All right, everything, I think I've explained pretty much everything here. Yeah, I can't think of anything I missed, but if I did miss something, I'll try to remember to explain it in the comments or something. So if you have ideas for what you want me to do to make this better, feel free to let me know in the comments. I do still have some ideas. I'm currently happy with the state of it for my own personal use, but I want to add more locations. Specifically, I want to add locations on schemes for people that want the game to take 400 hours instead of 100 hours, and locations on beating the first villain of a specific villain group or henchman group, just to more evenly spread out your locations. Because currently, most of your locations are going to be in the late game of a specific setup. Like when you defeat all the, usually you don't defeat the mastermind like evenly throughout the game. You usually spend like a few turns on, like a lot of turns on setup, and then you defeat him over the course of like 5 to 10 turns. So I want to add more locations in the mid game. There's also some stuff that I want to do that requires actual programming knowledge, which I have none of. So I wanted to make it so that you can set a number of sets that you want to play with. So like 10 sets, and it will randomly give you 10 sets to play with instead of you having to manually turn on and off every single set that you want to play with. The easiest way to do something similar is to just go to like random.org or something and just pick a random number a bunch of times for the number of sets that you want to use. So you can work around that if you want to play with a random number of sets. It's just I would rather have it as a YAML option so that you don't have to manually go to random.org. It would just be a nice quality of life thing, but that requires actual programming knowledge, which I don't know how to do. So it might come in the future if I learn how to do that, but currently it is not something that will be done. So yeah, thanks for watching. This is my first time I've ever made a thing. If you have suggestions, feel free to throw them in the comments below or go to the manual Discord server and find the Marvel Legendary thread in the card board game section and give me your ideas there. So thanks for watching, and I hope you have fun.